Hello again, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you're logging in from. Today we're going to begin our live demonstration of the Glassdoor Employer Tools, where you'll be able to learn more about how you can use Glassdoor to manage your employer brand and, most importantly, recruit the talent you need to move your business forward. Just a few housekeeping items before we dive to the site and get started. There is no dial-in for the webinar, so the only way to tune in is via audio over the web. So if you're tuning in, please make sure your speakers are turned on and turned up. We'll be muting all phone lines, but if you do have questions or comments, we encourage you to submit those into the questions pane and hit submit. We'll be taking all questions at the end of the webinar this morning, but don't hesitate to enter them at any time. For everyone on the line, my name is Lauren, and I'm the Senior Marketing Programs Manager at Glassdoor. I run our employer engagement programs and have been with Glassdoor for almost 3 years, helping employees like you learn how to improve their branding and recruiting efforts. I'm pleased to be joined by my colleague, Chris Winkler, who's part of the product marketing team at Glassdoor. He's been here for about 2 years and first started working with clients of Glassdoor to help them leverage their brand on Glassdoor. It's a pleasure to have you with us here, Chris.
Thanks so much, Lauren.
So we have a jam-packed agenda and want to leave the majority of the time to spend on site. But first we'll take a brief look at the candidate behavior today and why informed candidates are on Glassdoor. Then we'll quickly run through our solution areas, and then I'll pass things over to Chris, who will take us live to site to go through our paid and free employer tools. So what we know and what we've seen based on our research is that Glassdoor behavior is changing. Job seekers are in the driver's seat. They have more access to information and more power than they ever have before on where they decide to work. Just like consumers visit Amazon or Yelp or TripAdvisor to read reviews before making a purchase, making a reservation, or even making a job decision, they use Glassdoor and read employee reviews before making that critical decision. And this is where Glassdoor comes in. Glassdoor is the only place with all the critical information that today's job seekers need in their job search in order to become truly informed, such as the company ratings, salary estimates, employee reviews, benefits info, photos, videos, you name it, even interview questions. Over 700,000 companies worldwide have this information on Glassdoor. These candidates are going to Glassdoor to do that upfront homework on companies before they prep for the interview, before they accept an offer at your company. This is the kind of information job seekers crave and expect. So thank you for joining us to learn more about how you can get started on Glassdoor. So let's quickly dive into our solution areas. I'm going to hand things over to Chris to briefly walk through this.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. The first thing I want to bring up is that when you're looking at Glassdoor solutions, it's really crucial to understand that all of them really work in harmony to help companies on Glassdoor hire informed candidates on scale. You can think of the enhanced profile as the home for your employer brand. Job advertising is used to engage with job seekers on Glassdoor as they're going to make those hard decisions on where to work. And display advertising really allows you, the company, to go on the offensive and pinpoint the exact candidates that you need in order to help accelerate your business forward. Now, for the sake of this webinar, like Lauren mentioned, we'll be focusing on the enhanced profile, as well as some of the free employer tools and analytics that you guys have access to on Glassdoor. We'll be going live to site now.
And while we go live to site, I'd love to remind everyone on the line, if you have a free employer account today or don't have one and are hopeful to get started, we suggest everyone go to glassdoor.com/employers, where you will be prompted to fill out your information and claim your free employer account, which we will be calling FEA. You might hear us say during the webinar. So here we are.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think where it makes sense to start first is really just to identify some of the major differences between a free employer account, or FEA, and the enhanced profile, which is the paid version of the profile, which we also call the EP. So first we'll start with the FEA. What you'll see here is the company Orchard Supply Hardware. And it's not too much branding on the page. You'll see a lot of basic information about the company. However, when we look at the right bar, there's competitor display ads, and there's also competitor jobs targeted towards me, the user. Then as we scroll down, there are the reviews, which regardless of whether you're paid or you have a free profile, this is a crucial place for candidates to come learn about your company. Now when we move over to an enhanced profile, you'll immediately see the difference. This is Home Depot. You'll notice they have an awesome banner image showcasing what it's like to work at that company. There's also a little play button here, which means you can also embed a video within the banner photo, just adding a second layer for those candidates to interact with on your page. And as I scroll down, you also see that there are only Home Depot jobs on their page, as well as company updates. I should point out that company updates are also available to FEA users. So if this is an opportunity for you to go on as you're getting started to also start promoting your brand on Glassdoor. Think of it as a live feed or social media feed on Glassdoor. And then as we scroll down, speaking of social media, there's more social media links on the right. Home Depot has another featured video right in their main section. And then we'll get to the Why Work For Us section, which is really going to be the hub for companies to share their employer brand and their company story. We'll dive in a little bit more into the Why Work For Us section when we get to the back end. But the last thing I want to point out here is the featured review, just like the FEA, where it goes right into the reviews. If you've purchased an enhanced profile, you have the option to feature a review, which means you can select any review that was left within the last 12 months and pin it towards the top, giving you a little bit of control over that first review that those candidates come into contact with. Before we jump into the back end, just the main thing about having this enhanced profile is really taking control of all the real estate on your page and effectively sharing that company story the way you want to share it. This way there are 2 points of a conversation, not just reviews, but also the company telling the story as well.
And Chris, just to hop in here, when you were on the Orchard Supply page, I noticed a big red circle in the upper right-hand corner that definitely caught my attention. Can you tell me a little bit more about what this indicates and how you might turn it to green?
Yeah, of course. So what this red circle indicates is that this employer is not engaged with the Glassdoor page, which means they haven't claimed it and they haven't made any updates to any of the basic information, nor have they taken it a level deeper and started responding or requesting more reviews. Now when we see Home Depot's page, they have a green circle here, which means that they are actively promoting their profile, as you can see from the branding, and they're updating it on a regular basis.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and jump into the back end. This is Glassdoor's Employer Center. We're going to start here, and as I go through this, I'll be making sure to point out what features are available to FEA users, and then also what features are saved for EP-only users. So these first 3 areas, company details, logo and cover image, and about your company, these are all available to both FEA and EP users. As this section suggests, it's where you can go in and customize and make sure all the information about your company is up to date. Now as we move down to the branded content, a big area I want to focus on is the Why Work For Us section. We just took a look at it on Home Depot's page, but like I mentioned, this is where you're going to be able to really tell that company story and share it with job seekers as they come to your profile. So you have up to 5 tabs to build out. We have Love Your Job, Your Opportunity Working Here, Mill Valley, and Chicago Office, and there's several different templates you can implement, making it fairly easy to customize your page. And then you can, of course, put in a blurb that you like about each section. Now, some strategies that I share with a lot of clients when I used to work with them around, what's the whole idea of building out this Why Work For Us section, is we really want to think about who we want to attract. So, of course, a big strategy is giving a sneak peek into the company office, like Glassdoor does. We have a Mill Valley and a Chicago Office tab. Another very popular strategy that I work with a lot of clients on is thinking about who we ultimately want to recruit and then building a tab out for them. So for those companies in the Bay Area where software engineering is very competitive, it makes sense to have a tab that's built out specifically for that audience so that when they come to your Glassdoor profile, they get the information they need that's extremely relevant to them as they're making that decision on where to work. We'll move down now to benefits, awards, and photos. These three areas are also all available to FEA and EP users. A big reason, or a big factor, I should say, candidates take into consideration before applying to a job is the type of benefits that each company offers. So for both FEA and EP users out there, I highly recommend going in here to make sure that your benefits are accurately reflected on your Glassdoor page. Awards, it's definitely important to give yourself a pat on the back and update any awards that the company may have won, whether it's in the industry or maybe a top place to work award. Photos, you can always upload photos to share even more sneak peeks into what it's like to work at that company. And then social media and video is where you will go. This is only for enhanced profile members, where you can go and manage the social media on your profile and also upload videos to your page like we saw on Home Depot's page. The final section here, which is also available to both free accounts and enhanced profiles, is the company update section. So like we talked about, it is an area to further promote your employer brand as well as share any other news about the company as it happens.
And Chris, another time to hop in here, you mentioned earlier that we have an option to post social media links to their LinkedIn, to their Facebook or Twitter, but what's the difference of a company update? Why would I do another update on Glassdoor?
That's a great question. So while social media might be a very broad approach for the whole company on how to promote the company brand as a whole, think of Glassdoor as a specific social media feed specifically for employer branding and recruiting. So if you peruse a lot of Glassdoor profiles out there, you might see employee testimonials or employee highlight company updates. You might be seeing even just new job postings showing up in company updates or new things going on with the company that they want their job seekers to know. On top of that, job seekers on Glassdoor have the opportunity to follow a company on Glassdoor, which means once they follow you, all company updates are then pushed out to them. So it's a great way to re-engage those job seekers as they explore a Glassdoor profile, specifically your Glassdoor profile. All right, moving on. The next section we'll touch on is the targeted companies area. This is probably my personal favorite section, but what this allows you to do, this is an enhanced profile feature only, is it allows you to pick specific companies and target their profiles. Now, the companies cannot be current clients of Glassdoor, and the strategy here is to really think about what types of companies are hiring or recruiting the same types of candidates that my company needs. And then this allows you to leverage your Glassdoor partnership and then position yourself on these companies' pages. So where this shows up is on free employer accounts. There's a section on the right-hand side called Companies to Explore. And once you are targeting a company, it will then feature a little blurb about your company as well as relevant jobs to that candidate, giving you even a bigger advantage to pull those candidates back to your profile. Now, the estimated impact, I'm sure you're wondering what these numbers mean on the side. This just takes into consideration how much traffic is going to their profile, as well as how many other companies are targeting that page, and gives you an idea on what type of exposure you will be receiving on each company that you decide to target. Next one, Open Company. This is a great feature for a lot of the listeners out there really trying to figure out where to get started, because essentially what this is a checklist. It's 5 activities that you can do to fully leverage your profile on Glassdoor, and you do not need to be a client of Glassdoor to do any of these things. You'll see update company profiles, add photos, get more reviews and respond to those reviews, and then finally promote your profile by linking back to it on either your company website or social media pages. You'll notice that Glassdoor, of course, is an open company, and once you receive that badge, you get a cool little open company badge towards the top, just, again, telling job seekers that your company is actively engaged on Glassdoor and embraces the employee feedback you are receiving. All right, now we're going to move to jobs and recruiting. For the sake of this webinar, we want to really focus on the branding and the analytics tools in here, but I should mention this is going to be primarily for clients of Glassdoor. And the main tabs I'll touch on here are the performance. So for current clients of Glassdoor, this is a great way to keep tabs on how your jobs are performing on Glassdoor. So we have the two main tabs I go over with a lot of clients are job performance by day and by job title. As the title suggests, this allows you to track performance on a daily basis. You can change the date range to really make sure you're getting the full insight on how your jobs are performing over time. And then by job title is a list view of which jobs specifically are performing the best. And when working with the Glassdoor account manager or CSM, this is constantly an area where you're looking to make sure, are we pacing in the right direction? Are the right jobs getting the right amount of exposure? And are we doing the right things to ensure we're meeting our recruiting goals towards the end of the partnership? All right, so moving past jobs, we'll get to the review management portion. We get a lot of questions around reviews here, so I'll touch on a little bit on what we can do here and as well as some strategies around requesting more reviews, and then we'll eventually get to respond to reviews. So in the review tab here, you'll see that pretty straightforward. It hosts all the reviews on your company. This for paid clients or EP owners is where you can also feature reviews. So you'll see the little badge here in blue at the top. Like I mentioned earlier, you can only feature a review that was left in the last 12 months, just making sure that it's the most recent review. So talking about employee engagement strategies here, some very common ones that I used to work with many clients on promoting are engaging with new hires. I think is a great strategy, as well as engaging with people that just got promoted or people that just hit their anniversary with the company. With new hires specifically, this is a great time not only to get an employee review and some feedback on the company, but also to get an interview review so that you can really take a look at what the interview cycle is like and really get a more recent idea of the common feedback you're seeing. And then with promotion anniversary employees, you know, these employees they're celebrating a reason, whether they got promoted or they just hit their 1 year, 2 year, 10th year, who knows. Like, this is a great time to engage with them as they have awesome perspective on what it's like to work at that company. And typically the feedback you get from those employees is extremely valuable and can be used to pass up the chain in terms of some insights you're seeing from your Glassdoor profile. Moving down to interview reviews, a fairly new feature that we recently released was the ability to feature an interview review as well. So just like you can feature a regular review, you can do that here so that you're controlling the first review candidates see when they go to your profile. Again, I think it's important to think about what type of job seekers you are trying to attract to your page, because being able to then feature that interview review, again, it's just about presenting the most relevant information to those job seekers as they come to your Glassdoor page. And I'm sure many of you are wondering, hey, how do I get started? What are some common engagement techniques? And you know, I maybe don't want to risk sending an email blast out to the whole company, which is totally fine, which is why we have this Request More Reviews tool in the Employer Center, which is available for both FEA and EP users. Now, in terms of requesting for more reviews, like I mentioned, I think just talking about the promotions and the anniversaries, really focusing on that. I'm realizing now I kind of jumped over responding to reviews. Sorry, guys. But backlogging there, in terms of responding to reviews too, I think it's really important to stay authentic. This is your opportunity as a company to not only respond to a review, but really show candidates how you've taken feedback and made internal changes. Sorry about that.
And I'll hop in here too. We have a wealth of resources on the glassdoor.com/employers resources page. over how to respond, templates for responding, templates for soliciting more reviews. So if you're ever in a bind or curious how to get started, even how to handle a somewhat negative review, we have a ton of tools at your disposal. You can also point any of your questions to our content and community page. They have a help center that goes over many of the frequently asked questions. And if you are concerned that a review left for your company may be fraudulent or you want to flag it for a second review, you can do that on the help center as well.
Awesome. And one last thing I want to point out about requesting reviews, and this is probably why I like this tool so much, is the ability, there's already a template in here, but the ability to mass upload email addresses to this tool. But you can also change the from email address. So if you're concerned about, hey, I don't want my company knowing that I'm specifically requesting for reviews, you can change this to a general department email address so it reflects a department requesting reviews rather than your personal work email, which is one of my favorite features of the tool. And then at the bottom, it will look over and provide insights into how effective each email campaign was in getting more reviews to your page. All right, moving on to analytics. I have to say, in terms of reasons people sign up for an FEA, changing basic info is a big one, making sure everything's up to date, but also understanding the current analytics of their profile is huge. So we'll start here with the employer profile activity. This is available for both FEA and EP users. Simply put, it measures the amount of people coming to your Glassdoor profile on a month-to-month basis. You can also change the time frame here, but what I think is an awesome feature here is that you can also compare to 2 other companies. So just for the sake of consistency, we'll do Home Depot and then Orchard Supply, just so I can show you what that looks like. So here we'll see all 3 companies displayed in 3 different colors. So it's very easy to read and dissect. And it just gives you a good idea of where you're positioned on Glassdoor amongst those other candidates you guys are trying to seek. Following up on that, we know how many people are visiting our page. We want to know who those people are, which is where the candidate demographics section comes in. So just as the title suggests, we have 4 different areas to understand what types of candidates you are attracting: education level, years experience, gender, and age. Now on the bottom 3 columns, top companies, this represents the top 5 companies that those candidates are visiting before or after they're on your Glassdoor page. So thinking back to the targeted companies section, this is a good tool to use in tandem with that as you're trying to think of who should I be targeting. Well, we can see here that the asterisks represent current clients of Glassdoor, so we can't target them. However, LinkedIn is not a current client of Glassdoor, nor is Google. So these are 2 companies that we could target based off of where our users are going. Next is the top job titles. These are just, as I should explain, as Glassdoor users are using Glassdoor, whether they're searching for jobs or clicking on jobs, Glassdoor then catalogs each user based off of that activity and assigns them essentially a job title. So based off that information, we are then able to tell clients what types of users and what job titles are coming to their page. So again, thinking back on the jobs and recruiting tab, we want to make sure this is aligned with the type of candidates we ultimately want to hire or need to hire in order for our business to excel. And then top locations, very straightforward, where are these candidates located when they go to your Glassdoor page. Finally, just like the employer profile activity, you can compare this to 2 other companies too. I'll do one just so you guys can see what that's like. And this gives you even a better idea of not only how many people are going to your competitors' pages, but again, who are these people? Are they possibly recruiting and attracting the same people as us? And just more insight as to how you can make possible changes on your end to get the leg up here.
And Chris, this is such good data. How would you suggest employers take this and share this throughout their organization? Which are the groups that you think would benefit from this information?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I have to say, through working with clients, They always loved to show increases in their profile activities. They might share that with their marketing department, for example, to be like, hey, look, we're really getting a lot of movement on our Glassdoor page. Maybe it's time we start really crafting and thinking about the messaging we're putting on there, as well as the demographics. Crucial to share with the recruiting team just to understand who's interacting with their page. And I have to say, I think CEOs always really like a lot of the analytics that we put in here. And there's also an opportunity to, when you go up here, you can print a report or share these reports with other coworkers so that you can share the wealth of the Employer Center and more people can be engaged. Now this next tab is kind of a sneak peek. It's our Time on Site tab. This is fairly new for the Glassdoor Employer Center. And while we're giving you already an idea on how many people are coming to your page and who they are, now we want to know what they're doing. So this is going to give you an idea of where candidates are spending the most time and where they are and how they're accessing the page. So you'll see here desktop, mobile, and tablet. And then these are each by second based on the overview page. And then you can also scroll through how much time are people spending on reviews, salaries, interviews, and benefits as well. And then we'll also show an average time on the profile.
And Chris, you mentioned this is a fairly new feature. When can employers expect to see this?
So this is already, if you are a current client of Glassdoor, this is information that current Glassdoor reps have access to. This will be available to current clients to check out fairly close in next quarter. All right, company update analytics. So we talked a little bit about the company updates earlier in the employer branding section. So where this is really going to play in is just identifying how effective these updates are. So it's going to go over impressions, clicks, how many people found them helpful, and then how many followers you have. So as we scroll down, we'll see total reach or the impressions, the engagement, and also as followers increase, we want to make sure we're keeping tabs on how many followers we have, and we'll also show you when you are getting these followers. So you can kind of analyze this if we scroll down again, seeing like what types of posts perform better. So not only is this letting you know how many people are seeing it, but you're also then able to kind of backtrack and see, hey, look, this post performed very well this certain day. Maybe we look at producing more posts like this in order to engage with more candidates on Glassdoor. Audience targeting I will just lightly talk about because this is a feature that is only available for our select enhanced profile users. It's kind of the cream of the crop of all of our profiles. And to showcase this, I'll go back to Glassdoor's profile. So what audience targeting does is it lets you target content on your page specifically to up to 4 audiences. So everything from the banner photo, the video, the jobs, and each of the 5 tabs on the Why Work First section, as well as the featured review, can be fully customized to match that audience that you're trying to target. So Glassdoor right now has a page for sales, engineering, and customer service, as those are 3 big areas that we're trying to attract quality candidates to our company. So in essence, when you look at it, because you get 4 target audiences as well as 1 default page, you have up to 25 tabs to customize to make sure that those audiences, when they come to your profile, they have the most relevant experience possible, and you're serving up the most relevant information to them to make a quality decision on whether this is a good fit for them moving forward. All right, moving on to ratings trends. This is extremely crucial when judging the current pulse of an organization. Simply put, it's going to measure where your rating goes, grows, and climbs over time. This is a big area, I have to say. Lauren, you mentioned what kind of reports do you like to share with other people in the company. This is something through my time working with clients, many of them would be constantly rolling this up to upper executives and use it as a place to really see how the company is doing from an internal perspective. So not only will you be able to look over your overall review, but also culture and values, work-life balance, senior management, comp benefits, and career opportunities. So these are all crucial areas where as employees leave more feedback, you'll be able to look how that's affecting the rating. And even as you're implementing some of those employee engagement techniques we talked about a little bit earlier, you can then see what it's doing to your overall rating as well. And as we scroll down, there's also the other opinion sections, which include recommend to a friend, CEO approval, and positive business outlook. So again, just constantly keeping a tab on the current business. And this goes the same for interview trends as well, where, like I mentioned, as you're running employee engagement campaigns with new hires and they're hopefully leaving you more interview reviews, you can constantly go back to this to see what tweaks you can possibly make in the process to provide a better overall candidate experience for those job seekers applying for your company. Ratings by location and ratings by job title, I'll just talk to these in tandem here because they're very straightforward. This is an area I typically advise for clients that are looking to run employee engagement campaigns to also look into, because this gives you a more granular look at what certain departments in your company, or how certain departments in your company are feeling. So maybe it makes sense to reach out to, so we're looking at ratings by location right now, reach out to more candidates in San Francisco and Chicago because we have some good ratings there, and then we can look internally at Dublin and see what's going on there and how can we help possibly influence a more positive shift in direction for employee ratings. And the same goes by job title. I'll glance over this too, but this just breaks it down on a department level. So same strategies that apply to the locations also apply to the departments when looking again to not only for internal morale and health of the company, but also who to reach out to ask for more reviews.
Chris, this is even more exciting data. How would you suggest employers getting started to identify trends actually from the reviews themselves on where to start and where they might need immediate attention?
I think these tools are very, very helpful. So the two we just went over. Another thing too that you can also do, which I've glanced over earlier, was also download all of your reviews to an Excel sheet. And some companies either send it off to a data scientist team to do some sort of analysis on it, and you can see export to Excel here. Or you can do it yourself. It's not incredibly difficult to just identify trends within the reviews themselves. And finally, for those companies out there that have 50 or more reviews, you also have sections to the keyword tab, which is essentially a word cloud of common trends as well. So if you don't want to go through all that work of downloading the Excel sheet, you can go to the word cloud here as well. So you see for Glassdoor, work-life balance is a big one. We are a growing company. With that also comes growing pains as well. So we have both pros and cons, and then it also does interview review highlights too.
Great.
Now the last section we'll really cover here is the competitor comparisons. I have to say this is probably a tool of speaking to CEOs over my time that they all absolutely love. Now what it does is compare all of your ratings to up to 3 competitors at a time. So you're seeing Google, LinkedIn, and Oracle here. And not only will it do it on a chart form like this, it also then analyzes it based off rating trends. So it kind of takes all the 3 tabs, rating trends and ratings by location, and boils it down into one so that you have a full scope of how your competitors are doing and how you compare to those competitors. Fun fact here, Salesforce CEO, Mark Benioff, is one of the factors that they cover when they look to purchase a new company is the Glassdoor CEO rating and Glassdoor recommend to a friend. So thinking of it, ratings as more of like a business case here, Glassdoor has grown in the space to be an area where not only job seekers are going to understand the health of a company, but also future investors. Investors now are wanting to invest in companies that have a healthy morale and are trending in the right direction. So, not only is it going to be helpful internally for you to engage with employees and ask for more review, but it could ultimately lead to some future business decisions as well. Cool, Lauren.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate the walkthrough and hope everyone on the line found that useful and a good overview of how to get started, what are the free and paid tools available for you. We did have a lot of great questions come in, but I want to invite everyone on the line. Now's your time. If you have questions for us, myself or Chris or Glassdoor, enter them here, and we'll get to as many as we can. I did have one question that came in, that one employer on the line says that they're aware that some of their jobs are organically appearing on Glassdoor, but they're not sure if they're sponsored or not. Can you talk a little bit more about how jobs do get posted and how sponsored jobs appear more, differently than, say, an organic job?
Yeah, of course. So as a job site, Glassdoor wants to make sure that we are delivering all the jobs possible to job seekers as they come to Glassdoor, do research, and look for a new place to work. So with that said, Glassdoor is constantly scraping ATSs and career sites, regardless of whether you're a client or not, to post jobs on Glassdoor. Now the difference between an organic job and a sponsored job is that while organic jobs can be found on Glassdoor, they are not going to be pushed out to as many places. So of course they'll show up in search, but they might not show up on that first or second page of a Glassdoor job search, whereas a sponsored job will. And on top of that, sponsored jobs are also pushed to non-client pages. So if we think of that Orchard supply page, all those jobs on the right were sponsored. So you're getting more exposure on non-client pages or competitor pages. They're also being pushed in email notifications and showing up elsewhere on the site. So overall, you're just increasing your chances of getting in front of these informed candidates as they're going to make their decision on where to work.
Great, thanks. Another question from the audience that I'm sure a lot of people have had, I know I've personally heard it several times, is can you respond to a review with a free employer, or do you have to be a paid client?
That's a great question. I hear that one a lot. You can respond, request, and basically manage all your employee reviews regardless of if you're a paid client or not. In fact, I think responding to reviews is a great place to get started for those companies out there really looking to explore Glassdoor. And there's a lot of great resources online on our employer blog that really point you in the right direction on the best, most effective ways to respond to those reviews. And I think it's a great place for you to start.
Great. And another question from the audience, and I'll go ahead and take this, and Chris, you can add on, is what's the best way to request more reviews from current employees without seeming pushy? And this is a really good one. Chris went over a few examples around timing your request for reviews, around maybe the employee's onboarding, maybe the first 30 days in the job, or their work anniversary, maybe after they've been there for a year and have some good perspective about what it's been like to work for your company. Another idea you can do is have it come from your senior leaders. I know we just received an email from Robert, our CEO, not too long ago, suggesting that everyone in the company write a review. It's that time. It's summer. People are, potentially getting antsy, on vacation, getting some time to catch up. So it's a great time to solicit those reviews and ask for honest feedback. We also have posters around our office that are recommending people leave reviews. So it's a not pushy way. It's a friendly reminder. So there's multiple ways to do it. You can also have your individual team leads make a request to their team. Like, hey guys, it's been a while since we've seen a review from our marketing team. Would you guys be willing to leave a review? And as a friendly reminder, all reviews are anonymous. So if employees are concerned that by leaving a review, their feedback will be exposed, that's something you can set those fears aside. Everything is anonymous.
I think something to add on to that in terms of how do I request a review without being pushy, I think it's incredibly important on how you position the review request. Rather than saying, hey, look, we're trying to improve our rating on Glassdoor. We would love if you could leave a review. I think it's even more important to really put it in the sense of, hey, we want to make sure we're doing what is right for the employees. We want to make sure that we're moving in the right direction, and in order to do that, we heavily rely on employee feedback like yours so that we know the current pulse of the company and what changes we might be able to look into to ultimately provide a better place, a better work experience for you. So I think as you are writing these review requests, really put your mind into what would I want to be asked and how would I want to feel in order to actively and welcomely leave a review on my Glassdoor page.
Great. And this question, I've seen this one a few times before, and we can absolutely help offline, but one question that we maybe could speak to is what to do when there's potentially some unfavorable comments that you don't agree with about your CEO or about your company. What would you suggest employers do, Chris?
Well, I have to say there are always, we have a very, very intelligent algorithm in place, which last time I checked already blocks anywhere from 8 to 10% of reviews going on the site. So we have a lot of measures in place to watch out for fraudulent activities. On top of that algorithm, we have an awesome content team that is kind of like the second touch to each of these reviews. And so what you can do is if you go into the Employer Center, there's an option to flag that review, and it will give you an opportunity to justify your case on why this is fraudulent, why it might be damaging to the CEO. And then that review will be sent to our content team, and they will be able to have a second look at it and then respond back to that flag. So I would recommend starting there and then working with the content team moving forward.
Great. This is a question. You covered this briefly, Chris. Do the featured reviews have any indication to outward candidates or visitors to your page that they are, in fact, a featured review?
Yes, they do. So as we saw on when we were looking at the site demo, they do have that blue little icon saying that it is a featured review, and that review will always show up first, regardless if they go from the overview page to the review page. Once on the review page, the users have the ability to sort by popularity and date. So it can affect that the assortment of reviews shown, but that featured review will always be clearly shown and labeled for candidates visiting to your page.
Great, and I love this question. Who should own the process of responding to reviews? We have a small team, so it's challenging to keep up with the volume. How would you suggest he or she get started?
Man, this is a tough one, especially for small teams. And I also realize at first it can seem like a daunting process. However, I have to say that even small teams can effectively manage and respond to these reviews. Some companies I work with would possibly have a section in their team meetings to carve out when they find a review that they feel is willing to respond to, and then they would go over as a group in terms of how to respond to that review. And like I mentioned too, I think just keeping in mind that this is your opportunity to talk to candidates outside of the branding on your page and also show how you interact with these employees, whether or not the review is good or positive, really should be taken into consideration when responding to the review. Ideally, the higher level or senior executives or senior leadership response to the review, you can also kind of put it on the hiring manager or the manager of that team to respond to that review, because they ultimately will have the most relevant insight into the content of that review.
Great, and just a couple more questions here before we hop off for the day. One question I want to go over is how many free jobs can we post on Glassdoor? And this is a good one. We didn't cover it in today's presentation, but for anyone who's hoping to get started using Glassdoor jobs, you can go to glassdoor.com/post-job, and you will be prompted to enter our what we call self-service flow. So this means you'll be able to post jobs on your own without needing a Glassdoor team member, although they are available for any questions. And you can post up to 10 jobs for free for up to 7 days. So if you want to get started, this is a great way to get in there and start testing and see the candidates that flow to your page. However, if you're a larger company, we always suggest you work with a sales rep and come up with a more targeted job advertising play that best meets your needs, the roles that you're hiring for, and your budget. All right. So we had a few more questions, but to save everyone, in the sake of time, we will go ahead and just move to our last slide here, which is a reminder of some of the free and helpful resources at your disposal that we encourage you to get started with. So at a bare minimum, if you don't have one already, we highly, highly encourage you, go ahead and claim that free employer account. Reminder, this is glassdoor.com/employers, and you will be prompted to sign up for it right away. It's a great way to see a lot of the analytics that Chris walked over today, update your basic information, upload photos, make some of those company updates to drive traffic to your page. It's a great way to get started, and you can have an unlimited number of free employer accounts at your company. So say you're a recruiter or a hiring manager or the CEO, each of you could get started. Second, if you liked what you saw today but you want to see more about your company specifically, we suggest that you register for a custom demo with your dedicated account representative. This will give you a great insight into how your company stacks up against your competitors and see a lot of the available opportunities for you. And lastly, resources and best practices. On our marketing team, we are constantly providing new materials, ebooks, guides, templates, tutorials to help you improve your brand, get better at recruiting, and best maximize your Glassdoor tools. So we would encourage you to use this page, and all of these can be linked to in the follow-up. So highly encourage you to do all three of these steps if you haven't already. And for everyone who's joining, thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate your time and hope you got a good sneak peek and some great ideas about how to get started. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.